Hello everyone, Kirk Klein with Hallmark University here today. We're going to focus on Don Iacobucci's Marketing Management 5th edition, and we are on Chapter 7, Brands. So when we look at the marketing framework, the brands will fall under the 4 Ps in products. And when we look at our managerial checklist, what we'll find is we're going to cover what is a brand, why do we brand, what functions do brands serve, and what are brand associations? What are branding strategies for goods and services? And then how do we assess brand equity, right? Not equality, equity. So what is a brand? A brand, it's a portfolio of qualities associated with a name. Brands immediately invoke certain images, right? Brands have value beyond the benefits of the product. So let's explore that a little bit. So marketers control some brand associations, product shape and packaging, logos, symbols and colors, jingles and slogans, spokespeople, right? When I think of spokespeople, the first person that comes to mind is Morgan Freeman. Amazing voice, right? So when he's talking about anything as far as spokespeople, I'm listening, mostly because I love his voice. Marketers should control what they can. All outgoing messages should be positive, right? Think about that. Truth definitely begets harmony, but be careful. You don't want to be too truthful because that may not be the most positive message, right? So marketers do not control all associations. So like personal memories about brands. You know, I was running a race in cross country. I had these awesome slick Nikes and the sole separated. That was the state race. Bummer. Right? So is Nike awesome in that moment? No way. Can they control that? Not at all. Will I tell a million people? Possibly. That's a fictional what if, just so you know. Never had a pair of Nikes fail. So anyway, brand name. A brand starts with a name. Some names immediately convey information. YouTube, right? What can you not find on YouTube? Something to think about. Some names suggest their benefits, like optical for less. Might be better prices on your glasses. Some names are those of their founder, like Christian Dior, Calvin Klein, right? Marketers should choose a brand name that conveys its benefits. Interesting, right? So one of my favorites is Tito's Vodka. There's a lot going around about that guy. His company, his distillery is called it's the Mockingbird Distillery, if I'm not mistaken, and it's owned by Fifth Generation LLC or Incorporation or something like that. So it gives you the idea that he's the 5th generation. He's the founder. He's still alive. It's only about 20 years old. How could it be 5th generation? Neat name, right? It could convey the benefit. Wow, they've been around for 5 generations. That's not true, right? But very smart. Sneaky, sneaky. So brand names, logos, and color. Brand name meaning is built over time, right? Through communications with customers. Remember the credibility aspect of your service. So brand name meaning is built over time through communications with customers. Right? So remember the credibility aspect with the services. Brand names and logos are a shorthand way to communicate with customers. So this is who we are and what we look like. Boom, Nike swoosh, right? One of the easiest ones to identify. You don't even need Nike with that swoosh. You know what the swoosh is all about. Brand colors and fonts visually engage customers, like the New York Times and Google, right? Although Google's constantly changing how Google is spelled. But over time, we don't even notice it. We just see it as Google. So brand names and logos, MasterCard, Intel, IKEA, right? Same logos combine a brand name with a symbol meant to suggest the brand's value proposition. If you look at most businesses, they've got a Visa and MasterCard, possibly Discover, but usually Visa, MasterCard, maybe the Apple Pay, logos on their front door. Because look at Visa, MasterCard, and Apple Pay, and we're trendy and hip, and you can trust them, and therefore you can trust that we are a professional business because we accept those cards, right? So brand names and logos. Add those two, and now you're working together. So discussion question number 1, should a brand name be adapted over time? If so, when and why? So we have 1998 Google, and it's spelled with cool lettering. In 1998 to 1999, it's Google with an exclamation point. In 99 to 2010, it's Google because the font isn't bold. And then we've got 2010, 2013, Google. They changed the shape of the font just a little bit. 13 to 15, they changed it yet again. And today, Google is like, I don't know, an Arial font when you look at it. So why? Why would you do it? Because the first one shouts it out, you're brand new, right? And then towards the end, you just want people to easily be able to identify it. Oddly enough, when we look at it, the very first 1998 and today, fonts are, well, vastly different. Coloring is almost similar, only one color's off. So, customer benefits of branding, right? Brands identify company ownership. Brands allow for predictable quality. Brands make it easier for customers to make decisions, less perceived risk. Brands serve as status symbols, right? Like LL Bean car seat covers. Everybody's like, ooh, LL Bean, awesome company, very quality, and they make car seat covers now. I'm in. Yeah? Somebody licensed the LL Bean for the car seat covers, right? The car seat covers aren't manufactured by LL Bean at that moment in time. But because LL Bean has that particular customer branding, that benefit, that credibility, you can kind of predict the quality. It may or may not be a good thing. LL Bean needs to be careful when they allow the licensure of their name, right? So why brand? Companies' benefits of branding. Brands induce loyalty, increase repeat purchasing. Brands allow premium prices. Brands also allow a single firm to pursue multiple market segments, right? So company benefits of branding, let's think about that again. Brands induce loyalty. So all employees that work for Nike probably think Nike's awesome, very best. Chances are you're not catching them wearing Adidas or Adidas, right? So increase repeat purchasing. The brand, we know it. They're always consistent. Once they figured out size 12, Nike had size 12 nailed, right? They allow for premium prices. Why? Because, well, they make what they make, and if it fits your foot like a glove, chances are you'll pay it. Brands all allow a single firm to pursue multiple market segments. Nike's into just about everything. I'm waiting for the Nike vodka or Nike bourbon, right? And then they'll be in everything. Hierarchy of brand associations. Concrete product attributes. 40 mpg, miles per gallon. Abstract product benefits. Save money. That's my favorite. If you act now, you'll save over $3,000 worth of, rebates and whatnot over this brand new truck. Like in my savings account, it'll be $3,000 more, so it's abstract. What that means is you won't have spent it, right? Abstract emotional benefits. Feel good. Oh, that's that feel good, right? Like what about the t-shirts that said life is good and they had always the smiley pictures on it? Abstract emotional benefits. People smile when they see those shirts, right? Attributes are easy to communicate and easy for competitors to copy. Benefits are abstract, harder to create and communicate, but more meaningful. So the benefits are something that we want to focus on within that abstraction, right? So if we can get them to feel good, man, if the other company copies our logo, but they use a really scratchy cotton versus the cotton hemp blend that we use, hey, we got them beat. So brands serve social functions. Brands help customers express their ideal selves. So a certain school, a car, or an article of clothing. This is my ideal self. I can express myself through this because this is what I always wear, and I'm going to brand myself right along with that brand over there, right? So brands become the focal point of bonding through brand communities. Subaru, Harley Davidson, and Lego, right? Brand communities. My wife owns a Harley Davidson, and we are part of the Harley Owners Group. I'm an associate member because I drive a Victory. And, when you think about it, when you talk to people about Harley Davidson, all of a sudden you're in. It's a brand community. Who knew? So, brand association network. So, depiction of brand associations. Unlinked nodes have no or weak connection. Strong links are bold, right? So, coworker I travel with is a bold one. I can afford it. Connected to several Louis Vuitton briefcases. It's expensive. It's small. Small by itself is all alone as far as a brand association. Want to be successful. Kind of alone. Shows good taste, good quality. Those are connected. Louis Vuitton luggage, Louis Vuitton briefcases. They're kind of expensive. My brother-in-law has one. Right? Good design. Brown and black. Which brand associations have appeal for you? Brand association network, how it works. When brand name is activated, associations are triggered, right? I've got a client loves Louis Vuitton. So just looking at that example, boom, that client comes to mind. Notes closest to the brand are retrieved first. So for me, when I hear Louis Vuitton, I don't necessarily initially think expensive. I think I've got a client that owns one. And then the next thought goes to, they're very expensive. I would never expense that much money on a bag. Customer satisfaction with the brand is most heavily influenced by the positivity or negativity of the nearest links. My client who owns that Louis Vuitton bag loves it. So I can assume they're pretty awesome as far as the durability, credibility. She's had the same bag forever. Of course, she rotates it out with like 5 more, so maybe that breadth allows her to have them for a longer period of time because they last longer because they're not being used as much. I don't know. Networks may be simple or complex and depends on focus and consistency of the advertising, right? So what comes to mind first when Louis Vuitton is activated? For me, again, my client has it in their closet all the time and she loves it. So when I think of that, hey, that's great. Usually the next thing I do think about is, man, they're expensive. And while I might be able to afford one, I just wouldn't. I'd put my money somewhere else. Probably another Harley Davidson. So when we think about it, brand personalities, right? Brand can have a distinct personality. Personalities capture specific information about the brand, holistic perceptions about the brand. So let's take a look here. Right? When we look, we've got sincere, Cheerios, heart healthy, right? Or at least that's what they say. Ben and Jerry's ice cream. Nice ideas and thoughts about ice cream come to mind. Competent, American Airlines. When it comes to airlines, I think American Airlines and probably Southwest are the two competent in my brain. PBS, very consistent with their offerings as far as shows are concerned. And Boeing. Well, American Airlines and definitely Southwest fly Boeing. So those are awesome. Exciting. We've got ESPN, Google. When we think about sophisticated, there's Aston Martin. I mean, come on. Rolex, right? And when we think of rugged, Home Depot, Levi's, Leatherman, right? So those are specific information about the brand. That's what their personalities have captured. When I think about Leatherman, I think, man, if I'm ever in the zombie apocalypse, I need a Leatherman. Not sure that the Rolex will necessarily help me, although it might. Just depends. Is it a diver? Am I trying to get away from the zombies via some sort of diving, right? So think about that. Let's see here. Types of brand experiences. We've got affective, E-A-F-F-E-C-T-I-V-E, not effective, affective. So they get you in your feels. That's what affective. Effect is if you expose steel to oxygen, it rusts. That's an effect. Affect, when you watch the Hallmark Channel, you might need some tissues. That's affect, right? So make sure you spell those correctly when you're doing your papers. So the affective, Disney, Hallmark, Starbucks, right? Chai tea latte. Intellectual, Legos, Sudoku. I'm never going to understand Sudoku. Behavioral. Adidas. Gatorade. Gillette. I don't do Gillette. So consumer experience brands, the affective hits you in the heart. The intellectual hits you in the mind. And the behavior, well, that's the action, right? Something you do with it. So brand communities, customers who connect with like-minded customers. We talked about Subaru, Harley Davidson. They have extreme attachments to the brands. Apple folks. Man, Apple customers, if you are an Apple family, you are an Apple family. We're a house divided. I like PC. My wife likes Apple. So Nintendo. Yeah, either you're doing Nintendo or you're not, right? Harley Davidson. House divided again. My wife does Harley Davidson. I'm Victory. So we have extreme attachments to our brands. I told my wife that if she wanted a motorcycle to replace her current motorcycle because she wants to go from carburation to fuel injection, she should look into Indian. And you would have thought I told her maybe possibly move to Mars because she was like, I don't understand what you said to me. Harley Davidson is what I buy. I was like, okay then. So brand communities, extreme attachment to the brand, right? Marketers should try to build and capitalize on these communities. That's the way to do it all day long. That's the way to do it. If you can create that community or tap into that community or even a tribe, CrossFit's done a great job. They've created tribes within their boxes is what they call them. And the marketers have tapped into it, right? So fastest growing fitness franchise in the world. Something to think about. Branding strategies, umbrella approach, attaching the same brand name to products. Subsequent product introductions are easier for the customer to understand and accept. Higher initial awareness levels, build stronger brand associations and stronger financial outcomes. Nike, Canon, GE, right? GE makes everything from turbine engines to, everything, right? Canon. They're making quite a bit these days. Printers, scanners, and oh yeah, don't forget, their photography, massive, right? Nike. What does Nike not make, right? They've got the apparel, they've got the shoes, they've got the fitness gear, they've got headphones and MP3 players and all kinds of cool stuff, right? So, and then all the sports gear. So, lots of cool stuff. Stronger financial outcome. Because everybody knows the name. They expanded and they just kept stamping their name on it and holding the same level of, credibility across the line. So House of Brands approach, introducing a new brand name for every product line. So any problems with one brand should not influence the other brands. So that's kind of a catch-22. Jim Beam makes a whole lot of other beers, or not beers, but whiskeys, bourbons. So when people are drinking one, you might want to look on the back of the label. Chances are Jim Beam or MGP or some other company made it. So who you think is this awesome story, it's not. What they did is they allowed for different product lines to be different names. So if it tanks, it won't hurt the current parent product line. Brand images do not need to be consistent, which allows for targeting multiple segments. So you've got Jim Beam with whatever connotation it has in the consumer market, and then you've got one of their offshoots, which might appeal to a younger or an older market. It requires a greater advertising expense. One great example, though, is Procter & Gamble. They own 80 major brands. So when one brand has a massive recall or a massive failing, there's 79 other brands just trucking right along, right? So brand extensions. Brand extensions leverages the brand's good name to get customers to buy something new. So line extensions, increased depth, new product within a line. Like Cheerios. Cheerios has various flavors. Chex has, I think, as many flavors, if not more, than Cheerios, right? Product category extensions, increased breadth, new product line. Amazon sells many different things. Seriously. Amazon sells everything, right? So you have new products across the line. So discussion question 3, how might Oscar Mayer extend its line, right? So if we think breadth, right? Oscar Mayer is the hot dog guys. They could make a lunchable type thing. They could go into bacon. That would increase their breadth. Their depth is, they've got their traditional hot dog. Then they might have a different kind of hot dog that's uncured, all natural. They could do all pork, all beef, right? So that would be the depth of the line. How might Oscar Mayer implement a product category extension, right? And why would it do either? So if they're seen as a highly manufactured food product or meat product, and that becomes negative at some point in time, I don't see that happening anytime soon, but if they're going up against an organic competitor that is just whooping them 5 ways to Sunday, then we might want to look at Oscar Mayer implementing a different category, right? Or an extension. So things to think about. Co-branding. So 2 companies form a joint venture to create a product from both companies. And Kevlar fabric, right? Co-branding might be, I think Subaru and Toyota worked on the BRZ and the FRS. Same car. It's a Toyota 86. Or maybe it was Subaru and Scion. Toyota's the parent company either way, and So when you think about it, they co-branded. Same car, 2 different tags on the hoods. Ingredient branding. Form a co-branding in which one company adds value to a host product. So one company dominates the other. Intel in many PCs, right? So it's either got Intel inside or maybe AMD. So that's something to think about, right? Co-branding works well when a company is introducing a new product attribute, adding cough medicine to candy, right? So cough medicine to candy. You've got Halls, right? And that's what that becomes. Self-branding. Branding your own ingredient to differentiate its quality from competitors. Works better when tweaking a minor attribute. Tide's Everfresh scent would be a good example there. So global brands. Global brand, 30% of revenues from other countries. That would be a global brand. Global strategies, glocalization, different names in different countries. Manufacture globally, brand locally, right? So it's all made in one place, and then we just stamp one tag on it or another. Global brands, same brand in all countries. More advantageous, Amazon.com, Amazon.co.uk would be great examples there. Store brands, private label brands. Good for price-sensitive markets, can be more of a Me Too product offering. Can be premium private label, Walmart's Sam's Choice. And then retailer can offer decent quality for lower prices due to reduced advertising costs. It would be like Costco's Kirkland's brand, right? Manufacturers are launching second labels to compete with store brands. And then in some instances, I think like Massimo, Target bought that brand and created a store brand. So they can revive it or not as they see fit, right? Brand equity, the worth of a brand. Measurements have various different approaches. Determining the price premium of the brand. How much are you willing to pay for gas at Shell versus how much you're willing to pay at a local station? So does the Shell give you an idea that they've got a higher level of capacity? Is Exxon better than Chevron? Is Mobil the same? Who owns who, right? Comparing branded and unbranded. How much do you like this $499 Sony flat screen with screen within a screen versus how much do you like this $499 unknown brand that screen sharing with the same features, right? Well, if Sony's your deal and the no-namer isn't, chances are you're probably going to go with the Sony. That's why when they do come out, those no-name brands, and then they suddenly become a brand. I remember when Vizio first came out, nobody knew. It was a very cheap, very inexpensive option where the flat screens were concerned, and before you know it, they're just about sold everywhere, right? So are they really cheap? Are they as good as a Samsung? Are they better? Are they as good as a Sony? Are they better, right? So measurement approaches, continued. Interbrand assesses the value of a firm. Subtract its physical and financial assets. And brand contribution index varies by product category. High for cologne, lower for retailers. So when we think about the brand equity, who would you think are the top U.S. brands? Right? That's a good question. And who do you think are the top non-U.S. brands? When I think top non-U.S. brands, I think Toyota. For the longest time, General Motors was the largest, and they were very proud of it. Definitely a top U.S. brand, General Motors, and they were the largest automobile manufacturer on the planet. Toyota is these days. So Toyota is the top non-U.S. brand. Now, they could be manufactured in the U.S., but their home company, that's not here in the States. That's in Japan, right? So who do you think are the top U.S. brands? Think about it. You know, what's made here in the U.S. these days? That's a great question, especially when we think politics. They're always talking about bringing the businesses back here to the United States. So who's the top non-U.S. brand? Why? That's the question. Like Smirnoff vodka, #1 vodka in the world. Who's number 2? Absolute. Who's number 3? When will we get to a U.S.-based company, right? So think about it. Probably not something you think about every single day. Is Timex one of the top U.S. companies? It's a good question. So top brands. In the U.S., we have Apple, Google, Coca-Cola, Microsoft, IBM, GE, McDonald's, Amazon, Disney, Intel. Non-U.S. brands, there it is, Toyota, Samsung, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Honda, Louis Vuitton, H&M, SAP, IKEA, and Zara. So notice in the top brands here in the U.S., there's no car manufacturers, right? The non-U.S. brands, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of the top 10 car manufacturers. Really interesting. So, managerial recap. Brands are promises to customers. They include names, logos, colors, and fonts. Brands signal information to customers about predictability, anticipated reliability, and expected quality. Could be that car thing. Brands can command higher prices because they offset the risk. You know this brand, so you're okay investing the money. My Apple 6S versus my Apple XR. I didn't have a problem pulling the trigger on it. I wanted to know what the differences were, and I wanted to read upgrades XR versus 11. That's what it came down to. And I decided to go with the XR because the 11 is still a little buggy. But that's a $700 phone, right? They can command higher prices. I remember my first cell phone, I think it was $100. So do the math. Brand associations are cognitive and emotional. So cognitive and then emotional. Companies can employ umbrella branding or house brand strategies. Brand valuation, the measure of the worth of the brand and its importance to the marketers. So when you think about it, at the end of the day, marketers have to get into the mind and the hearts, the feels of the customers. And while some of you might be out there age-wise appropriate, and you might kind of thumb your nose at the feels, when we could just say it hits you in your heart, the next largest capable generation, the millennials, they talk about their feels a lot. Might want to think about that, right? So brand valuation, again, is the measure of the worth of the brand, and that is very important to marketers. That's the end of our current chapter. I will see you next time. Have a great day.